This is Bronnie, The Bronnie Show, every Wednesday. Follow Bronnie everywhere at Bronnie Music.
What's up, everyone? It's Bronnie, and you are listening to The Bronnie Show, and I'm joined here with Gary Quinn. How's it going?
I'm not too bad, Bronnie. Thanks for having us on. Good to be with you.
Yeah, awesome. Now, you've just come back from Switzerland, I believe.
That's right. Yeah, I just got back last week there.
Yeah, how was that?
Fantastic. I've had the fortune to go over there a few times now. So beautiful place. I've been over in Liechtenstein before and just adjoining Switzerland there. Just fabulous. You kind of think you're up in the clouds with the Swiss Alps all around you everywhere you go.
Now, I'm very jealous of you, Gary, because you have ticked off a lot of bucket list items on most country artists' lists. The one that stands out is, I believe you played the Bluebird Cafe a couple of times.
That's right.
Tell me
Yeah.
all about that.
Yeah. Kind of pinch me moments really. I remember going back about maybe 12 years ago now, maybe a bit more, 13 years ago. I had an opportunity to go to Nashville for the first time with a crowd from the Belfast Nashville Songwriters Festival. And what they were doing was showcasing Irish artists and more so Irish music, but allowed me to tag along as a country artist from Ireland. And the Bluebird was one of the events that they'd put on. Now, on that evening, they had to come to me and say, look, there's not enough space. We can only allow four artists on, not six. But I was just happy to be there. You know, I kind of took it all in my stride and I was just thankful to be in that wonderful, iconic space. But it did plant a seed. I did think to myself, you know, someday I'm going to come back here and I'm going to play this iconic venue. And a few years later, thankfully, I was allowed to come back and play in my own right. And since I've been able to go on and put a few shows on there as well and invite some friends along. So always has a special place in my heart, that one, particularly for the likes of Chris Christopherson and Garth Brooks and all of Tony Arata who've traveled through that space.
Oh, 100%. Because you're literally stepping into history when you're walking in the venue and Boulder Cafe, and wow, that just must have been amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal, you know, that for anyone that's not been either, it's such a small venue. You know, I think they can only get around 80, 85 people in there. Um, but what it means in weight around the country music fraternity is huge. You know, it's right up there with the Ryman and the Grand Ole Opry. So when you sit back and think of the amount of artists and writers in particular who have gone through that space and what that venue um, allowed Nashville to develop into. It was a great hub for people when they first went to Nashville back in the 70s and 80s to meet with people, to network, and to share their songs and stories, and to by doing so get better. You know, because the talent was so strong. So it's a monumental place, you know, for somewhere so tiny, but yeah, really really cool place.
Oh, for sure. That's what I love about country music. You hear people's life stories really in the lyrics, don't you? And so
Yeah, I
amazing.
think that's its biggest draw to me,
Hmm.
the storytelling element to it, and taking nothing away from other genres, but country for me allows it a bit more authenticity. Um, and the more authentic the lyric is from a past experience or a previous experience, the more you believe that song and that sentiment. And what's really interesting is it doesn't matter who the singer is, the singer can still make you believe that if the song's authentic enough, if it's written from a place of authenticity. So, yeah, the lyric element to country music is its biggest draw for me.
And that's what I love about your music. Now, right before our interview, dude, I literally stopped myself from crying because I was listening to your song, He's My Dad.
Yeah,
And oh my gosh, I literally get emotional now. Like, tell me about that writing process because it's such a gorgeous song.
thank you. Yeah, it was coming up to a Father's Day a couple of years ago. And like my dad is my best friend, you know, we had our moments as I was growing up as a teenager, and I'll
Yeah,
hold my hand up, you know,
everyone.
that was my vibe. But certainly someone I can lean on, and we have very similar tastes. So in my adult years, have become very much my best friend. So I wanted to honor that in some way, and the best way I know how to communicate is by writing a song. I'm not the best at sitting down and telling someone that I love them, you know. So that idea came pretty quick, um, and it's personal, you know. It's about me dreaming about growing up to play the opera stage, but ultimately my role model was my father, and then trying to swing that round to tie in the fact that I'm also a father myself, and then I hope that someday that my two look at me in the same way that I look at my father. So to go back to what we talked about with authenticity, the fact that I've got a great father, the fact that I'm trying to be one, um, allows me to pull on those emotions. And thankfully, it seems to resonate with people that listen to it.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous song, honestly. So how do you go about writing songs? Is it different every time?
No, I generally have a plan of attack with when I start something new. I like to think of a hook, and
Mhm.
I have a list of hooks. I'm sure every songwriter does on their notes element on their phone or a notebook. And I just try and pull out one of those in a new session and always try and work backwards. That you've got the hook, decide how you want that to sing and land, and then step backwards and think, right, well, how do I get there? Now I know where I'm going. Um, A, how am I getting there? And B, what vehicle am I using to get there? So, but by using those two analogies, and it allows you to have that focal point. It's very, very, very rarely I've sat down and started with the first line of the song, because I find if I do that, the song could be 6 minutes long.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, like anything, if you were heading to a new destination, you'd figure out where you're going first before you jump in the car.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I love hearing how different people write songs, because it's always just kind of totally different story every time. I love
How do
that.
you do it?
How do I do it? So basically, I always find that it's easier writing a song if I know of a good song title.
Yep, that's exactly mine. Yeah,
So that's kind of one. And if I like to write the choruses first, because
yep,
then it means, or sometimes, well, I'll write the choruses first because then it means like the verses have got to, can't be boring, you know?
yeah,
Yeah, or sometimes like I'll hang out with my bandmates, so we'll write a full track. Because I love the lyrics and melody side. Probably melody
yeah,
favorite things to start writing with. So yeah, but I always feel like if I know, if I, because like you were saying, like in the notes app, if I've got a good song title, then like the whole song can just happen really quickly for me.
yeah. Awesome. That's pretty much similar to what I was saying. That it's that kind of get your song title or hook and work backwards. Kind of sounds a little unorthodox, but I would say it's predominantly how a lot of writers do it. And there's no right or wrong way. It's just a tool.
Oh, for sure. Now, so you're an artist, you're a songwriter, you're a festival booker, you book loads of artists for other shows. So you pretty much do everything in the country scene, which is awesome. So tell me, how did it all start? So from childhood to now, what are some of the pivotal moments in your life? What was it like growing up as a kid? What made you go, okay, I really want to do this?
Um, Ireland's very synonymous with country music, American country in particular. There's always been a big tie between the two countries with the emigration from 170, 180 years ago. And I think there's a lot of Irish immigrant emotion in a lot of the stories within country music and instrumentation. If you think of the fiddle coming from Ireland and Scotland. So that has always kind of stood strong, that there's always been at family gatherings, strong country songs that would be sung in those family gatherings. And I would have watched my uncles play guitar, my mother would have sang, and my aunties would have sang. And I just thought that looks cool. I would like to can we maybe try that. And then once you kind of step into that, you have to have your own party piece. So although I'd been listening to kind of Chris Christopherson song, Garth Brooks was coming out at the time, and my party piece would have been a Garth Brooks song. Um, and I picked up the guitar in time and started to learn that. And the two really came together. And it still was only a hobby. I wasn't really writing until I hit my mid 20s. Um, but I'd really kind of formulated that country was my thing, and following the likes of Garth Brooks, Brad Paisley, Keith Urban, Al Ketchum, and following anything new that was coming out then. And it was only, like I say, in my mid 20s, I decided to sit down and try and write. And that really came from, I think it's just my personality. If I see somebody do something, I kind of think I'd like to have a go at that, or maybe I could do a better job. And not to say that I would do a better job, but at least try. And over time, people wanted to hear them. Anytime I would have showcased them in any way. And that Belfast National Songwriters Festival was a really key moment for me in around 2010, where I picked up a runner-up award in the songwriting competition that allowed me to open for Caroline Carter in Belfast and meet so many wonderful people at that festival. And there was a 6-year relationship there that allowed me to go out to Nashville and write with different people. And perform in different ways. So I'd say that would been a key pivotal moment in my own originality and being an original singer-songwriter and putting that out as a self-releasing artist. Um, as regards to festival booking and events, a couple of years down the line, another key moment was meeting the Hancocks over in Stockport, who were interested in looking at starting uh, a different festival. And we talked a lot about country as I played a different festival of theirs. Um, and around 2015-16, we came up with Buckland Boots, which has been going for the last 9 years. So those were the real two key pivotal moments that allowed me to explore my artistry side and then kind of fell into the events booking side of things.
That's awesome. And yeah, you've been doing this for a long time. And I guess that all musicians I meet subconsciously, it's in our blood. It's like, it's kind of like it's always been there. It's just
Yeah,
making that decision to do like, I'm going to do this. I
I think
love
it's a strange one that because I think everyone has a vocation. Um, people will in some way find something that they really want to do. Whether they're able to do it or not is the other thing. Everyone I think finds and lands on a passion, but being able to forge that out for yourself, to be able to put food on the table and a roof over your head is quite the difficult part. What I would say, I suppose, about the UK country scene now at the moment, it's allowing a lot more opportunity for new artists coming through to definitely pin their hat on that passion and follow something a little more secure. Um, because of the growth of the genre itself within the UK and further afield. So I would say that's really exciting for anyone that has that in their blood right now. But for myself, going back, trying my hand at this, I'll not give my age away, but whenever I first started, um, there wasn't as many opportunities. So it's wonderful to see those platforms now um, more fruitful and what they're able to deliver for the artists that want to chase it.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. So I'm going to ask you some quick fire questions because I always feel like that's how, we get to know each other better. So, favorite show you've ever played? These are some great bragging rights here. I want to hear them.
Favorite show? I suppose it has to be at the Bluebird in the round, just for what that means within country music. I done one with William Michael Morgan, Mo Pitney, and American Young, and I'd kind of grown up listening to that sort of neo-traditional style. William Michael Morgan and Mo Pitney at that time, quite current, were guys that I was listening to, and here I was singing alongside them. And John Strone and Chris Ormondson from American Young were great friends at the time. So yeah, that's one that surely stands out. Got to play out in Australia at the Tamworth Country Music Festival as well, which was massive. About 5 or 6 thousand people at that, and
When was that?
it was huge. That was back in January 2019. And then we got to tour up the Gold Coast, which was fantastic. So music's taken me to so many places I would have never even thought about going to. Um, Liechtenstein as well is gorgeous. So, but yes, I think if I was placing weight on the meaning of those events, then I think the Bluebird one's the one that stands out the most.
Yeah, awesome. So, what's your favorite song you've written that's released? It could be
Um,
right, it could be yours.
yeah, I think it always tends to be the last one you put out. It changes all the time. Um, so the last one I put out is Heavy Boots.
Big fan of that one.
I love the sentiment around that and the analogy of it. And I got to write that with Brett James, who's a monster of a writer, like so many number ones with different artists, like Jesus Take the Wheel for Carrie Underwood. And anything Kip Moores had a hit with, he's been on it, and Kenny Chesney. So that one, because it's so fresh and I love the metaphor and storytelling within that. But actually, coming back from Switzerland there recently, I dipped into the catalog a bit more, and He Don't Show Her Anymore was one of the first ones I put out there. Um, and everyone was coming up afterwards saying that that was one of their favorites. So you kind of forget about the older ones because you always want to have new ones to put out. So that one's still pretty special.
Yeah, awesome. So, what's your favorite song you've written that's unreleased?
I've actually written one there recently with Jake O'Neill, who I'm sure you're familiar with.
Okay.
It's called Whiskey Soaked Texts. Um, so, like, yeah, if you've ever been in a position where you're sending text messages and a drunken state when you shouldn't have been. That's up there. There's another one called Beam Me Up I done with Blue Foley and Russell Sutton that I'm excited about getting out. But we're kind of currently seeing if we can just pitch that around a little more before I would consider putting it out. But I'm really excited about that one too.
Now, I was having a bit of a stalk of your Spotify, so I saw the first song you released on Spotify was a Christmas song. Yeah, dude, same. I really, it was like 2015. I look back like, why did I release a Christmas song first? What made you want to release a Christmas song first?
Um,
A song you actually released, or was it, did you release CDs or all that before with other songs, or?
yeah, I had been releasing before that, but Spotify and iTunes and all that kind of streaming platform drive was just happening around that time, and that was probably the song I just had at that moment that was ready to be pushed on the platforms. Um, so I always liked the idea of Christmas songs. I've
Manga, I'll be streaming it every Christmas.
yeah, I think I've put out three to date now. That Festive Moonshine was just born out of the fact, you put your milk and cookies out for Santa Claus, but in our household we also used to have to put out a glass of whiskey. And it
Hmm.
made me think if Santa was going around drinking all this whiskey in all the Irish households, how far would he actually get?
I love that concept. That's great. Now, if your music taste had a family tree, who would you be related to?
That's a good one. Probably still influenced by Chris Christopherson and listening to him growing up without really like knowing what he was singing about, really. It's only in later years that kind of figured that out, but his melodies were so simplistic and his voice and storytelling was so inviting. So that, along with Garth Brooks in the 90s, and then as we kind of go through, I love listening to Cody Johnson right now, Charlie Worsham, whenever he was releasing Rubber Band. Love what Zach Top's doing now. Any of that kind of neo-traditional stuff, William Michael Morgan, Mo Pitney.
Oh, amazing. I love that. Now, if your music was the soundtrack to a TV show, what TV show do you reckon would be suited?
Um, when I think of stuff that I've been writing of late and with others that has a bit more of an attitude feel, Yellowstone was in the back of our head trying to think, could we pitch towards something like that? So that kind of gritty Southern twang kind of vibe with Watch Me that I've done with Mickey Evans, and then I've done a few with Michaela Fredrickson, and Mickey's next one actually has a bit more of that vibe too. So yeah, and because with the growth of country music and those shows, likes of Nashville back maybe 10 years ago and Yellowstone now, are really bringing that sort of music to the fore without people realizing that they like it. So, but if you look at my actual catalog and it's what it talks about most, it's probably romantic stuff. I'm a hopeless romantic. So that's about love that went well or love that went wrong. So I'd probably need to be on one of those soppy romantic dramas, maybe.
Love it. Now, if you were to form a supergroup with anyone dead or alive, three people, who would you pick? I always find this one interesting.
Um, that's a tough one. Just out of pure selfishness,
Hmm.
Garth and Chris, you know, um, and it would cover quite a different span of decades there, you know. Um, but interesting, like all those supergroups, you need like a blend of voices and stuff too. And we done a thing a couple of years ago called the Honky Tonk Road Show, and it was myself and Jade Helliwell and Kezia Gill. And I used to love those. The
Awesome.
two girls with their voices were incredible. And they were so energetic on stage in their performances. I was just stuck in the middle, kind of singing along, fangirling half the night. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, I love that. So, what festivals have you got coming up? Like, what are you excited for this year?
Well, we've got Buckle and Boots coming up now at the end of May, so I was excited for that one. And we're a festival of discovery, so and really excited about introducing a few different faces in that one. Um, I head over to Denmark in September for the Songwriter Festival there, Nashville Nights, Denmark. And we do a spring tour with that, so that's just after Buckland Boots as well. I'll be taking on a few different dates in Denmark for that. Then I've got Together Again in Cheshire Castle, which is really cool because it's such a massive festival that there's this country specific stage at that, which is interesting, and maybe other festivals might take suit with that. Will start introducing country into their programming. So, and that's not too far either, so that'll be a good day out. So yeah, lots to look forward to. And I head to Europe tomorrow again, actually, Germany, Denmark, and um, Holland for about 8 days. So looking forward to that too.
So yeah, because you got Cody Pennington. Is that tour?
That's the tour, yeah, yeah.
Amazing. That's gonna be sick.
It is, it's interesting to see how country music is growing on the mainland as well. I feel that there's always a ripple effect to that. Whatever happens in America has a ripple effect in Canada, Australia, UK first, and then it starts to spill into the mainland Europe a bit more. So a lot more opportunities coming up in the mainland, which is why I keep liking to explore Denmark and the Scandinavian countries, Switzerland that we just talked about. So yeah, exciting times, particularly for the self-releasing artist, independent artist. I think there's going to be a lot more opportunities coming up in the future.
Yeah, I love that. And like European fans are just a different level, aren't they? Like especially in Germany. They're great.
They're so like they're apologetic for being polite. It's like a double politeness, you know. Uh, but they don't understand that certainly as a songwriter, all you want is for people to listen, and then they'll apologize afterwards for saying like we really enjoyed that, but we're not the biggest cheers in the world. We're not the biggest clappers in the world. But the Swiss had a nice way of putting it. It said it's like if your next door neighbor was watching you, and so you wouldn't want to embarrass yourself by
Oh, yeah.
fangirling someone or something like that. So I thought that was really interesting. But they said once the light goes down and at a concert,
Mm.
they're as rowdy as anybody.
Oh, 100%. So have you got any more songs in the lineup coming out soon or?
Yeah, so I'm still in the middle of a project that I'm releasing. So I've put out Watch Me, Poison, and Heavy Boots from that project. There's been another 5 songs with that project, and still deciding on which one to go with next. Maybe a song called I Want You to Stay. I wrote that with Lisa T and Joe Martin. So yeah, just figuring that out. Maybe Country Straight, which I done with William Michael Morgan. Hopefully it'll be a duet. But yeah, it's kind of just navigating these shows right now and seeing what the best time is to land those. And releasing music's so difficult, knowing what way to do it. Do you do EPs? Do you do albums? You just do single runs? So still trying to figure all that out.
That's always the hard thing, isn't it? Because I feel like nowadays people's attention spans, like everyone on TikTok and everyone's like, release single after single after single. And then, but when you want to release an album, you want to release a body of work that not everyone knows all the songs before it's come out. But then
Yeah,
there's songs on the album that you love that you wish you was like were singles. I always find it so hard.
yeah, it is. And what would be right for somebody won't be right for somebody else. So I think I just kind of come to the point now where I want to put the music out because I want it to be heard. And if that means that I just continue to do it in single format, then that's fine. I think whenever you're going out doing your gigs, if you have a piece of work in one place, like an album or EP or vinyl, it's a good opportunity to make some more money. But ultimately, you want the songs heard because every song's a lottery ticket. Could be heard by anybody that could take off in a completely different way that you ever thought it would. Um, but it has to be out there. So those Spotify platforms, iTunes, all the rest, even though they don't pay well, kind of like a necessary evil to allow you to buy that lottery ticket to see if you can land the jackpot.
That's so true. I've never even thought about that, like the whole lottery ticket. You describing that because I had it with my first album last year. Um, there was a song that we just put on last minute, wasn't even going to go on the album, and it's like one of the fans' most favorite songs. And I just
Yeah,
was not expecting it, and I'm like, damn, I should have released that as a single.
but this is it. You never know. And you could
Yeah.
have 100 people tell you which way to go, and none of them could be right. It's been nice to come on and chat about what's happening in the future. Um, Big festival season's coming up now, so any festival bookers listening in, be sure to get in touch. And because I'm excited to get playing this new music out there as it's released. So yeah.
100%. And where can everyone find you on socials? And
Yeah, on the socials, my social handle is simply at Gary Quinn Music, and my website is Gary JP Quinn Music, and all details are there where you can find me, what I'm doing, and what's coming up next.
amazing. Well, thank you so much.
Well, thanks for inviting us on.
This is Bronnie, The Bronnie Show, every Wednesday. Follow Bronnie everywhere at Bronnie Music.